Just after 8 a.m., a deafening roar shatters the tranquil morning. Startled workers turn towards the sea. Was it a plane crash? Panic spread across their faces as the floor began to rumble. Dew and her colleagues ran outside, rushing toward the ocean. Everyone on the beach was frozen in place. Their eyes were fixed on the horizon. This is the story of one woman's fight for survival during the most fatal tsunami disaster in recorded history. As always, viewer discretion is advised. December 26, 2004 began like any other day in paradise. The morning air was filled with the scent of sea breeze and the sound of gentle waves lapping the shore. Dew arrived early to take in the fresh air during her morning walk on the sand. Known for her meticulous nature and calm demeanor, she had been an integral part of the resort for years. She worked as a bookkeeper at the Golden Buddha Beach Resort. It's a hidden gem in the Andaman Sea, nestled on the untouched shores of Koh Phraya. The remote island is just north of Khao Lak and is known for its 12 kilometers of incredible untouched beachfront. The island is so remote, the only way to access it is by a small 8-person boat on an hour-long journey from Kurabur Pier. The villas at the Golden Buddha are the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Guests venture thousands of miles to enjoy yoga at sunrise, snorkel in crystal-clear waters, hike along untouched terrain, and indulge in fresh, locally sourced cuisine at the Banbury Clubhouse. The idyllic calm of this secluded paradise is as peaceful as anyone can imagine. That peace is about to be shattered. At 7:58 a.m. local time, a seismic event originated along the Sundra Trench subduction zone off the west coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. From this point, the rupture continued to expand northward for more than 1,200 kilometers, generating a massive 9.3 magnitude earthquake, the largest to have ever occurred since the 1964 9.2 magnitude Alaska earthquake, and the second largest ever recorded since the 1960 9.3 magnitude earthquake in Chile. The massive earthquake caused the seafloor to suddenly shift, resulting in waves that raced across the ocean towards Indonesia, Sri Lanka, East Africa, and of course, Koh Phraya. In deep waters, these tsunami waves spread out, with long distances between them and low wave heights, making them almost invisible. As these waves travel outward from the epicenter and towards the coast, the seabed rises, and the waves grow taller. Tsunami waves travel incredibly fast in deep water. They move upwards of 400 miles per hour, or about as fast as a jet airplane. Because of their incredible speed, early alert systems didn't have time to warn people of the impending danger. As they approached Thailand's shallow coastal waters, their speed decreased, but their height increased dramatically, forming a massive wall of breakwater barreling towards the resort. A distant white line grew rapidly, transforming a mere curiosity into a monstrous wall of water barreling toward them. The calm bay water began receding into the pull of the tsunami, exposing the bare sand beneath. "Run!" someone screamed. Terror gripped Dew as the giant wave surged forward. She turned and sprinted up the beach, her heart pounding wildly. Each step felt like a desperate race against impending doom. The roar of the wave grew deafening as water began to engulf the entire island of Koh Phraya. The tsunami hit with a ferocity that defied comprehension. A wall of water, towering and unstoppable, surged across the Golden Buddha, obliterating everything in its path. Wooden bungalows splintered like matchsticks, and palm trees were uprooted and hurled inland. Guests and staff were violently swept away in the torrent, their screams drowned by the thunderous water. Dew, flung into the churning water, fought desperately to stay afloat. The water was a chaotic mix of debris. Fragments of bungalows, uprooted mangroves, and boats were turned into lethal projectiles by the sheer force of the current. She was tossed around like a rag doll, her lungs burning as she struggled for breath, swallowing salt water that stung her throat. Waves crashed over her, pulling her under repeatedly. Dew's limbs grew heavy with exhaustion, her muscles screaming in pain. She tried to orient herself, but the water's turbulence made it impossible to discern up from down. She clung to anything that floated by. A piece of wood, a plastic container, anything that might keep her above the surface as she struggled to breathe. In the midst of the turmoil, Dew was struck by a piece of debris. Stars exploded in her vision. She cried out in agony and blood trickled down her face. Despite the pain and disorientation, she fought to remain conscious, knowing that to succumb would mean certain death. All she could hear was the sound of the rushing water and the screams of those caught in the tide. Just then, she started to feel the current receding as the next wave began to build on the horizon. The torrent of water began to reverse course. Dew found herself momentarily able to breathe before the water pulled back violently, dragging her with it. Afraid she might be swept out to the vast, unforgiving ocean, where survival would be nearly impossible, she had to think quickly. The powerful current tugged at her legs. The undertow made it difficult to keep her head above the surface. The force was immense, and Dew felt herself being sucked away, her chances of reaching solid ground diminishing with each passing second. She clawed at the water, desperately trying to resist the pull, but it was too strong. In her desperate struggle, Dew spotted a palm tree, partially submerged but firmly rooted in the sand. With the next wave building and the seconds ticking away, she knew this might be her only chance. Summoning every ounce of strength, she lunged towards the palm tree, her fingers outstretched, grasping for a lifeline. She managed to catch hold of its trunk just as the wave began to crest again. The tree was slick and rough, blistering her hands, but she clung to it with a desperate grip, her body straining against the pull of the water. The wave crashed over her, trying to tear her away, but Dew held on, her knuckles white, her muscles screaming in agony. The water surged around her, debris slamming into her from all sides. She felt the tree shake, its roots holding firm against the onslaught. With her legs being pulled by the receding waves and her upper body anchored to the tree, Dew was caught in a brutal tug-of-war between life and death. The wave finally receded, leaving Dew clinging to the tree, her body battered, but alive. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her heart pounding with the effort. She narrowly escaped being pulled out to sea, but the danger was far from over. More waves would come, and she would need to get to higher ground. The palm tree had saved Dew's life, but her ordeal was far from over. Another more powerful wave was bearing down on her. She wouldn't have time to escape, and she could feel the tree beginning to loosen. Dew could feel it shifting beneath her, each tremor sending a jolt of fear through her already exhausted body. She tightened her grip, but the tree was slowly losing its battle against the furious ocean. Her arms ached, her muscles quivered with fatigue, and the salt water stung her eyes, blurring her vision. Every passing second brought her closer to the realization that the tree might not hold. She needed to find another way to secure herself, but the options were limited. The water was a maelstrom of debris and destruction, and the relentless pull of the waves threatened to drag her back into the chaos. A particularly strong wave hit with such force that it finally uprooted the tree. Dew felt herself being yanked violently as it toppled. She was at the mercy of the raging waters. She tried to grab something to hold because she wasn't a good swimmer. The waves slammed her against the debris, knocking the wind out of her as she was pulled out to sea. In the churning water, Dew managed to catch a floating cushion and held on for dear life. She drifted into the sea believing she would soon be dead. She was drifting for hours. The current had carried her farther away from shore than she realized. The sun was beaming down upon her, and she'd been in the water for a very long time. It was hard to tell with so much water and debris how far from shore she had gone. Her limbs were heavy with exhaustion, and her muscles burned with the effort to stay afloat. Just when she thought she could hold on no longer, she saw two other survivors floating on the water in a sofa. Was she seeing things? Dew swam towards them. Another person after such a harrowing ordeal gave her a surge of adrenaline and hope that she might make it through this. Together, Dew and the two survivors decided it was now or never. They had to make a break for dry land. Knowing that if another wave came before they reached land, they might not make it, they prayed and swam as hard as they could. Their efforts were fueled by sheer survival instinct, pushing past exhaustion at every turn. Finally, they reached the beach. The survivors helped drag each other from the turbulent water. Once on land, they headed for a small hill known as Monkey Mountain. She was greeted by staff and guests who had also found refuge on the hill. Some were injured, all were wet and hungry, and many had witnessed their friends or loved ones perish. Together they spent a night of pain, grief, and misery in a treehouse. In a strange irony, Dew was actually attacked and bitten by a monkey on Monkey Mountain. Despite this bizarre ordeal, she remained resolute, steadfast, and calm. She'd survived much worse already. Rescue came on the morning of December 27th, when helicopters landed to evacuate the injured, while others were taken by motorboat to what was left of the mainland via Kurabor Pier. The 2004 Indian Ocean Tsunami was the deadliest tsunami event in recorded history. Over 230,000 lives were lost across 14 countries, with another 1.7 million displaced. Upwards of $13 billion in damages were incurred as infrastructure crumbled, homes were destroyed, and livelihoods swept away. In Thailand alone, over 8,000 souls perished, with countless more impacted. A total of 4 Thai staff and 9 foreign guests died at the Golden Buddha Beach Resort. Today, on Monkey Mountain, the survivors' treehouse still stands. Across the island of Koh Phraya, there are statues and Buddhist flags planted to remind visitors of what happened that fateful day and the power of Mother Nature. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you for your great story suggestions. There are so many amazing tales left untold of real people overcoming extraordinary challenges. If you found this story compelling, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you in the next episode of Ready, Set, Disaster.